My family yelled at me so much when I was a kid, but they weren't really doing anything wrong. My family owned a machine shop and an auto body shop, and if I ever disobeyed them at any time, it could actually lead to me getting seriously hurt or killed, or them losing a ton of money, or all of the above. And because my family was really frugal, they were the ones who babysat me, all of my aunts and uncles, my grandma and grandpa. So I spent a lot of my childhood at the machine shop, playing in the back where I couldn't hurt myself, or at the auto body shop, hanging out answering phones. They tried to keep me busy as best as they could, but I used to get yelled at just as bad if I played in the mud with other kids as if I actually did something dangerous. Now, I know I'm not special, and I know a lot of immigrant kids had similar experiences growing up in their parents' businesses. But growing up this way, I had some serious perfectionism issues growing up that my other white friends just didn't deal with. Most of my peers grew up having a little bit more freedom to make mistakes than I did. Unlearning this perfectionism took years and lots of panic attacks and a bike accident for me to realize that something in my life needed to change. The weight of other people's expectations were just too heavy for me to hold, and performing perfectly all the time in the ways I thought I was expected to was destroying my life. It's like, you and I were not put on this earth to be perfect, to perform flawlessly, that we stand in the face of judgment, fearing no criticism. It's impossible. Life is wasted when we live attempting to escape criticism. It's useless because no matter what you do, someone is going to find fault in what you're doing. For a long time, I played flute. It was my favorite thing to do. I took extra study halls so I could disappear in the school basement and practice. I wasn't practicing to be perfect. I was practicing to be expressive. And I was. I used to get criticized sometimes for embellishing, for improvising. I was too extra. I was told to just play what was on the page. But that's just how I was as a kid. I'm sure I'm not the only one who got reprimanded for being so excited to read that I read ahead of the rest of the class. We aren't meant to stay in a box, to do what's safe. Psychological research has shown that the happiest adults are people who are permitted to take risks and make mistakes as kids, to experience, explore, and be bad at stuff. And that's really the only way you're gonna find out that you're capable of handling it when things go really wrong. Creativity is the same. How can you know how to fix a fuck up unless you fuck up 1,000,000 times and get really practiced at fixing major fuck ups? And then it's a huge cliche, but sometimes the mistakes you make end up being the best decisions that you ever made. Okay, so one example is that when Metallica recorded Master of Puppets, during Kirk Hammett's guitar solo, he accidentally slipped the string off the neck, which made this iconic squeal that he ended up trying to recreate every other time. But people ended up loving it. Another one is that when Bill Withers was recording Ain't No Sunshine, he couldn't remember the lyrics as he was singing, so he just ad-libbed and repeated, I know, I know, I know. And that ended up becoming an iconic part of the song too. Navajo rug weavers intentionally leave an imperfection in every one of the rugs that they weave because they believe that it gives spirit an opportunity to move through their work. Persian rug weavers believe that worrying about mistakes will impede their progress and improvement. And it's true. I spent a lot of years stressing out about trying new things because my family considered it a risk to let me try something if they didn't know I was going to be good at it immediately. I didn't even know that I could draw until I was 33 years old. And I'm not bad at it. But I was so intimidated by drawing for such a long time. I had to start with something way easier. My mind was stressed. It couldn't get into flow. And doing something without structure, entirely by feel and intuition, was so foreign to me 10 years ago when I started that I had to work through so much anxiety to try to do creative things. But the reality is, it's never too late to start if you can handle the embarrassment of learning something as an adult. When I took up dance as a mid-20-something, I discovered it's not so much about looking good as it is about how it makes your body feel. And of course, good form is important so you don't injure yourself, but these things are all intertwined. Tapping into how things feel helps you do better, which makes you end up looking good. And it all starts with feeling comfortable with being imperfect. Being comfortable with being observed in your imperfection. And finding safe spaces where you can be imperfect without judgment. And sometimes that means finding a totally new space entirely. Sometimes the people you love are not going to get it. Sometimes they're going to feel secondhand embarrassment at your experimentation. But that doesn't mean you should stop experimenting. Self-expression is something that, for the most part, probably only you are going to understand about yourself. And occasionally there are going to be people who get it too. And those are the people that really matter. Because anyone that makes you feel less than for expressing yourself through your art is not worth your time, attention, or emotions. Be you, be imperfect, make your art.